A chinchilla is a fur-bearing mountain rodent native to South America.
They are endangered due to people hunting them for their fur and as well as loss of their native habitats.
There are a wide variety of fur colors, but only two fur types, straight and curly.
Chinchillas need to be kept in tall cages with plenty of ledges for them to jump around. There can be absolutely no plastic in the cage as they will chew on it and it can make them quite sick. The rooms that they're kept in need to be between 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Those small cages can be used if used for travel in the car.
They need plenty of clean water and pellet food.
As treats, they can have dried, never fresh flowers and hay.
It is a common misconception that chinchillas can have fruit, but in fact it is quite bad for them as it is high in sugar. When it comes to grooming a chinchilla, they can't take baths in water like a normal animal. Their fur is far too dense. So instead, they roll around in volcanic pumice, or just commonly referred to as dust, to clean their fur.
When they feel threatened or distressed, they make a high-pitched barking sound.
Chinchillas can get respiratory problems if they are crowded or housing conditions are poorly ventilated.
High sugar diets can lead to fatty liver disease in most chinchillas.
Pet stores may have them, but usually don't. If you want a healthy chinchilla, go to a breeder.
As cute as they are, don't let them steal your toast.
How did you start as a chinchilla breeder?
Well, I originally started with, I had a few of my own pet chinchillas, and I started with the rescue. And the way that I got into that was that I actually had several chinchillas. My mom decided she wanted one of her own because she liked mine. So we put an ad up on Craigslist looking to see if anybody was rehoming one. We didn't get any calls immediately, and she put up an ad saying she wanted a female. And right before Christmas, we got a call from someone that had two males with everything, with a cage and everything. And they were asking a reasonable price, but unfortunately they had males. She wanted females, so we told them no. And I distinctly remember because I was at work a few days later, it was Christmas Eve, and I was at work and I got a call on my lunch break, and it was the same guy. And he said, you know, that I'd already talked to him about the chinchillas. And I told him, yeah, unfortunately, you know, my mom was not looking for males. And he said, oh, well, if you just want them, you can just have them for free. And I still told him, we were not looking for males. And he said, well, he'd already thrown away the cage. He'd already thrown away all their supplies. He had them in a carrier, and that if I didn't take them, well, he hadn't talked to anybody else. So he was going to take them and put the carrier out by the dumpster and hope somebody would take them. And, because I'm a bleeding heart, I drove out there Christmas Eve to go pick up these chinchillas. And back then I didn't have all the spare cages and all the, what I have now. So we went dumpster diving for all their stuff. Their names were Cody and Tucker. That was my first 2 rescues ever. That was back in 2003. And that was the first 2 rescues. And I didn't intend to keep them. My mom did eventually get her female. And so we took those 2, and I eventually put up my own Craigslist ad saying they were up for adoption, and I explained how I came upon them, how I got them. And the next day at work, I had all these phone calls, and I was really excited because I thought, oh, people want to adopt them. And actually, when I called these people back, what it was they all said, oh, we saw how you saved these chinchillas, how you took these in. Can you take in ours as well? And that's kind of how the rescue started.
What is the difference between a good breeder and a bad breeder?
For the most part, what we see with the bad breeders is they just are taking any 2 animals, a male and a female, and putting them together and breeding. They usually don't have any care about improving the species or showing or anything like that. With a good breeder, you see the people that actually attend shows are improving year after year. And it doesn't have to be by leaps and bounds. It doesn't mean the first year you get 4th, the next year you get 1sts. But it's one of those things where you need to be making a conscious effort to actually, improve the breed, pairing chinchillas that are basically complementary to each other. You get one that's, say, like lacking fur strength, you pair it with one that has strong fur strength.
How often do you take them to a vet?
So my personal philosophy on that is if it's not broke, don't fix it. So with them, if they are sick, obviously we take them to the vet. It's not worth going just to like, some people go, I've heard, to just do like a yearly health checkup. In my opinion, that's not really worth the risk, because you run the risk of them getting stressed out and possibly even catching something at the vet. We actually know of another rescue/breeder that took her one chinchilla to the vet, and it must have been exposed there to a dog that had Bordetella. And the chinchilla caught that, brought it back, and more of her chinchillas got sick and wiped out quite a big portion of the chinchillas she had. And, I'm in no way am I saying that she should have let that chinchilla suffer. However, she did end up having a lot more chinchillas that got sick due to taking that one to the vet. And, in that case, that one was really sick and really did need to go to the vet. But the risk you run is if it's perfectly healthy and you do that, there was no point to even take it to start with.
What are the do's and don'ts of owning a chinchilla?
The main thing with the do's is just keep it simple. I think people overcomplicate it a lot of times. They really only need hay, pellets, water, and something to chew on, well, and obviously a cage to survive. They don't need all this fancy stuff. Sometimes we see actually people that they get injured basically by people trying to do too much. They try to do playtime and then they end up stepping on it. They try to do, a 10-foot tall cage, the thing falls, breaks its neck. Those would be extreme examples, of course, but a lot of times too, what we see is a lot of people that go to the pet store and buy every treat off the shelf, and they can have some treats, but that's where keeping it simple, honestly, is the best for the chinchillas. When you read online, there's a lot of places that say, oh, you can feed them raisins or you can feed them, fruits or veggies. And I'm not saying they won't eat it, but it's not good for them. They shouldn't actually have that kind of stuff. And that's one of the biggest, for me anyway, do's and don'ts is you don't feed fruits, you don't feed veggies, you don't feed anything fresh, actually. It's all dry diet for them. And I've heard a lot of people over the years say, but they like it, they eat it. Well, I'll eat Taco Bell too, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. And that's where a chinchilla eating that kind of diet will not necessarily live as long as one that's eating a healthy diet, where it's a little bit simpler diet. We actually had one come in years ago that he was eating 3 snack-sized Snickers bars every day, one in the morning, one at noon, and one at night. He was 8 years old when he came in, and I was personally surprised he made it that far.